I can't control what he does. He's good at what he does. I'm good at what I do.
Is that weird that something could have such a big impact without you winning?
Man, it serves you because I'm a fighter. Keep going, keep going. When things happen, I'm not going to give up. Just no. I believe that the key is the discipline. Learn the discipline and hardest, or understand when you're in that mode and learn to work with it.
So we're in the bullpen by Jessica Nelson. I have a very special guest here. Joining us is former Major League Baseball player, coach, speaker, and best-selling author, Darryl Jones.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. So Darryl and I had the opportunity to meet last year around this time, right?
Yeah, I believe it was around November, December. It was at the, let's speak.
Speak Off,
that was in December, early December.
It was December.
Yep.
It was about this time last year. And Darryl was in a speaking competition called the Great American Speak Off. That was the pilot season, right?
Yes. Trying to figure out if it was going to go on TV.
They're now in their first real season. I don't know what station they got picked up on. We'll find out. We'll find out. So Darryl was a golden ticket winner, and so was my daughter, Haley. And Haley's a softball player, as everyone knows. And she immediately saw Darryl and she goes, oh, he's a baseball player, because he had on his uniform. She was drawn to him. And most of the other golden ticket winners were kind of like, what's this kid doing here? Is this some sort of gimmick? They were kind of a little bit rude to her. Not Darryl. Darryl was like really motivational and, applauded her. And so that really said a lot to me about who he is as a person.
Okay, I got to stop you right
Yeah.
there. Okay. So here's the funny part about that. So when I met Haley, I'll be truly honest, I didn't know she was a participant. I had no clue. I had no clue at all.
Really?
I only found out she was a participant when she was in the top 30, which is probably a good thing because I would have probably, oh, okay, you know,
Yeah.
like the competitor. You trying to?
You would have been going for blood on the 12-year-old.
Yeah, I wouldn't done like that, but I would be like, oh, okay, you no, it would just kicked in. But no, but on a serious note, I would have done the same. I mean, same
So
thing as
what did you
kids.
think she was there doing?
Honestly, my mind wasn't even. It wasn't even there.
Sure.
It wasn't there.
You were competing, so you
I
were
wasn't
focused.
like. That's a good question because you were there. I mean, I probably would have thought you were competing. Maybe I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know. I was just there. Like I would have done the same thing. It wouldn't have mattered. So I can't control that.
Yeah. So one thing Darryl just said is that
She's good enough.
the top 30, this speaking competition started with, I believe, 37,000 or however
almost
many.
30,000. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a lot of people. And there was different cuts, different rounds. And the hardest cut was the one down to 30 people, which you made.
Yeah.
So talk to us about the interesting situation or occurrence. You were a wild card.
Yeah. So it ended up working out well because I was on the bubble. My first speech was it was good. It really showcased more of my talent because I write. I like write poetry and stuff like that. So I'm good at rhyming and putting things together like that. So that was the first one. And that got me through. So I was like, I'll just keep that because that's,
Right.
that's going to get me through. There's no reason to change it. But going into Pete's room when I did it, I could tell he was like, man, it's good, but I think there's a little bit more there, And so for whatever reason, I was but they wanted to hear me speak again.
So Pete is one of the main judges and the host of the show,
Right.
Pete Vargas.
Yeah. He wanted to hear me speak again. So I was one of the 5 called up there to speak on stage in front of everybody. And I remember when Pat was walking around, he said, hey, what's your number, Bob? And everybody was looking at me like, I know they were, oh man, you got chosen. I was thinking I got chosen.
Yeah.
And then I heard Pete talking. He was alluding to some people. I was like, God, dog, they're gonna make me get up on this stage again. I do not feel like doing this. But in that moment, the next 2 minutes, I changed it up. I changed my speech up, and I gave my 2 minute. We only had 1 minute, but I took my 2 minute and brought it down to 1 minute, which is talking about my mother and being a leader and all the other stuff, and got a standing ovation.
He got a standing ovation.
Yeah, and that was that. So that got me. Probably went from maybe top 30 to like, I think Pete said I got the highest rating before I got eliminated.
So that was my next question. Yeah. In most of the rounds, the other contestants didn't get to see you.
Right.
But you were there because of this wild card bubble.
Yep.
Tell them about the opportunity.
Man, I got to speak in front of, and this happened. A couple other people that I'm friends with now happened because they got to hear me speak on stage, which had I not been on a bubble, I would have never been able to speak. And I would not have changed my speech to talking about the leadership of my mother and all of that. Yep. So you probably don't remember. I remember it because Pete said it, but Pete remembered that wasn't my speech. He remembered that. So when I was on stage, he said, "Now that's coming from your heart." He said, "Before you were coming from your head."
What the whole audience kind of didn't understand is he was in Cardinals.
Yeah, so I was in my Cardinals uniform.
He was in a full Major League Baseball uniform, not the ones you buy at whatever sporting goods store, the ones you get from your team.
Which I wasn't going to wear that either. My sister convinced me to wear that.
I think it was a smart thing. Yeah. I know Elena didn't agree, but
yeah. Well,
so he's in this uniform on stage in front of everyone, not just a few people, but everyone, and the big cameras that ended up in the show. And now everybody knows who you are. Because you were the wild card. Right. Meanwhile, if you had just gone through,
even John Gray, he saw me in the hotel after. He said, "Hey man, they're talking about you up there. Everybody's talking about you."
Yep.
And I was like, and again, like you said, coming from John Gray, you know what I'm saying? Like, that came from him. So that's when I was.
So how was that? I mean, if you're like you're going to CEO competition, right? And Jeff Bezos is there, or for speakers, Pastor John Gray is he would be somebody we would call a successful speaker. He has a church or you could say a business that he's the head of, and he is actively speaking for it. And how was that competing against an industry heavyweight like that?
Man, you know what? I looked at it more as a great opportunity because, again, I can't control what he does. He's good at what he does. I'm good at what I do. We bring two different things to the table, and we were never in the same room competing against each other. So I looked at it as this is a chance to be around someone that is great at what they do. What can I do to – it's no different. It reminds me when Kobe Bryant's competing against Michael Jordan. He said he pulled Michael Jordan aside. He bugged him till he couldn't even do it until – Michael Jordan finally said, "All right, come on, man. I'll mentor y'all." But instead of, he could have been like, "F Michael, I'm gonna be better."
Yeah.
He said, "Dude, I need you. I respect greatness because I understand how hard it is. So when I see somebody that's doing it against me like that, like my first initial response is to what can I get from it. Now, if they push me off, then now I gotta come get you.
Sure.
Or that's my mindset either way.
And you made it to the top 13?
Top 30.
Top 30.
Yeah, because the top 13 were the ones that spoke on stage.
Well, there was 12, but you got a lot of yeses, so I'm going to call you number 13.
Hey, I'm not going to argue against that. But again, it was a great opportunity. I think the real blessing was being able to speak in front of you guys, because now we do business, we partnerships and things like that, and have great relationships.
So being an athlete, life is typically about winning, having to win.
Yeah.
Here's something that you didn't win, but it was a very powerful event in your life that has had transformative powers for you.
Yeah.
Is that weird that something could have such a big impact without you winning?
Man, the ego is very interesting because in general, yes, that it had a very big impact as far as the whole event from start to finish was impacting because it got me out of bed. It got me essentially bed and moving in a direction that at the time I wasn't moving based on what was happening in my life at that time. And so it reminded me of people, that there are people out there that do value what you have, even when you don't feel like you have value at that time. And that was actually part, if I would have made it into the top 13, boy, like the story would, because I literally wrote my 2 story. I had already had it, it was already written up. But after what happened at the event, I met this kid there, and you want to talk about impactful? Check this out. He a kid just like Haley. Oh man, you're a baseball player. So I started pouring into him and stuff like that. And he asked me this question. He said, "How does it feel to put the uniform back on?" I said, "Man, yeah, this was what my story." That's why Atlanta had ate me up so much. I was like, "You'll see why I got the uniform on. I'm preparing for the next round." But he said, "How did it feel to put the uniform back on?" I said, "You know what? I never thought about that. I will tell you this." I said, "I haven't worn this jersey in 10 years. I haven't put it." Wow. My sister had to convince me to wear this. I wasn't gonna wear it. It was almost like I was afraid to wear it. Like I didn't want to put it on. It's crazy. She said, "You need to wear it." I said, "I don't," because in my mind I was like, "Oh, they're gonna be thinking this." But still, but this is me. This is, I accomplished this. That type of thing. She's like, "You need to wear that. That's part of you. That's part of your story." Yeah. So I said, "Man, you know what? I haven't worn this in 10 years. I said, but now that you asked me, I said, this is the first time that I can say that if I take this off, I feel like I'm still worthy. Because I said I didn't wear it because I didn't feel worthy. Like I didn't wear it. I didn't feel like I was worth anything when I didn't have it. But now if I take it off, I feel like I'm more valuable. I'm valuable without it on."
Is that jersey a symbol of your identity as a baseball player?
Yeah, that it was. And so that's where all my identity was. And it was a group of men standing around me. And when I said that, like we all got chill bumps. We were even talking about it. Like all the dudes could say like, yeah, I get what he's talking about. Because that wasn't something that I thought about.
Sure.
And so I had it all planned out. My speech was going to be talk about that moment. And at the same time, I was going to take the jersey off. And then, so at the simultaneously, you hear me say, if I take this jersey off, I know I have, that whole deal. So that was going to be my spiel on stage that I didn't get to do. Because that was a real life event that I felt like a lot of men needed to hear.
Sure.
And it was genuine because I hadn't worn it.
So that jersey was the Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Is that the team you first started playing with when you entered the league?
Yes. So I got drafted at 17. I was with them for 6 years. Up until 2010, I believe, 2011. And then I became a free agent and went with the Reds. And I made it half the year that year. That was the year that everything, because like I said, I had the eye surgery, had injuries, and then, that was the quickest year. Like that felt, a lot happened in that year in 2012. A lot.
Okay.
I just got married. Like that was it. Just got married, so hadn't even, next month now I'm flying off. So hadn't even.
So you got married the same year you stopped playing?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So got married. While I'm gone, she finds a house. Okay. Obviously I'm funding it, that, like everything's good. So she's moving house, and then next thing you know, first day we moving in, first day she gets a call from her husband and said, "Hey, I just got released."
It was the same day.
Same day. She told me, that's coming from her words. She said she was carrying a picture. She had a picture crossing over when she got the call. She just dropped the picture.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's your whole life, like what you were planning on, what's is boom, just changed.
And you were drafted straight out of high school, correct?
Yeah. 17, 18, 19, 20, those are my college years, right? I didn't go to college, so I spent them hitting baseballs and coming home, and that was my college experience.
I've been told that minor league baseball players love Applebee's. Is that true?
Because they're probably forced to eat. Here's a crazy story. So in spring training, and it's not crazy, but it's in spring training. Let me tell you the difference between minor league camp and major league camp. So in spring training, the year I went to big league camp, we get meal money, and they would hand us an envelope with 2,100 cash in it, just for meal money for about a week. Everybody gets it. I remember, man, ooh, boy, we making real money now, you know?
Which is interesting because Major League Baseball players spend that, you know,
that's
one
just
night.
Yeah, that's just, I mean,
at the club, maybe.
Yeah, well, the guys that got the big contracts and stuff, like if you just get to, I mean, if you dumb, you do that.
Sure.
Like, because I remember, before I get back to the story, I remember being in the outfield with Dusty Baker at their spring training. I was with Brandon Phillips and another guy. Big guy. Hope he don't see this. How you forget my name? But I was standing with him out in the outfield. I wasn't doing anything, but Dusty Baker said, come here. He said, I want you to look out there. You see that guy right there? Just signed a $60 million contract. You see that other guy right there? This will be his 10th year in the big leagues. You see you trying to make this team. You can't do what they do. Get out of here. Like, basically trying to give me the game and saying, hey, you're not in that position yet. Okay? You got to earn your stripes. Don't be letting them get you in trouble because you're not there yet. They're already established. He just signed a $60 million deal. He can do whatever he wants. He's the face of the team.
But that's really how he felt, that they could do whatever they want?
Well, in essence, he was saying, hey, dude, you're trying to make this team. You need to stand out. Don't get into the act of fitting in with them and when you should be working.
Yes. Okay.
You know what I mean? And I wasn't doing anything bad. He was just trying to give me the game and say, hey, man, just remember, they're in 12th grade right now. You're in 1st grade.
Okay, understood.
He
was trying to get you to hit the gym a little bit harder.
Yeah,
stay in the cage longer.
They're made men.
Gotcha.
So you need to stand out right now. You got to sprint. He can jog.
Did that create any pressure on you?
No pressure. I understood what you meant.
Okay.
I understood what you meant. I'm trying to make this team. So if the head coach is telling me, is giving me game on how to make his team, I don't see that as pressure. I see that as, oh, he didn't have to tell me that. Thank you. Because that means you're watching me. You're watching me.
Did everybody catch that?
Yeah.
Say that one more time for us, please.
So if the head coach is giving you game like that, that's not pressure because that you're telling me something you didn't have to tell me. Mm-hmm. You gave me a heads up, so now I know next time. So, but that also means you're paying attention to what I'm doing. You could have just let it slide.
So you are a coach yourself, right?
Yes, I am.
Do you spend more time on the ones you believe in?
Absolutely. So I can really get in. So it's like the Pera Principle. 80% of your production is coming from 20% of your people. So you got to make sure you pour into the 20%. They're giving 80% production.
So you pour into the ones you believe in?
Yeah, absolutely. I pour into I pour into all of them because all of them matter. But the reality is all of them not giving me the same output. And so the ones that I see that are willing to do the extra, I see myself in them. So because I see myself, we're all looking for ourselves.
Sure.
We're always looking for ourselves.
Sometimes we look for the opposite of ourselves if there's things we don't like in ourselves.
True. But that's also why you get on your kids too.
True.
Because you don't like that. You see yourself.
So I want to expand on this concept.
Okay.
What are some things that players can do to grab a coach's attention?
When it comes to baseball in particular, sprint on and off the field.
Hustle.
Yeah. And even more. So I was telling this story earlier, but my coach, when I was 17, I was 16 at the time, but my coach pulled me into the office and I thought I was in trouble. And he said, hey, I just want to tell you I appreciate what you're doing. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, you know, your hustle on and off the field. You're always doing it. He said, you got all these scouts out here looking at you and you could be kind of he said, but I don't see that in you. He said, you're doing exactly what I would want my leader to do. And
that's interesting that some coaches think that just because you have a high level of talent that you don't need to hustle.
Right. And it you know, I will say this. You get some that are dead set on, hey, this is how you need to, like a Bill Belichick, obviously this is my way, or that. I would say in general though, if you want, your talent will get you by as far as not doing what everybody else is doing, as long as what you bring, what the drama that you bring doesn't outweigh your talent. If that makes sense.
Okay.
I'll give a prime example. Here's an example. Odell Beckham. Okay. Odell Beckham.
Giants.
Yeah. Great talent. Great talent. Nobody really said anything. He had a lot of stuff going on. Everything was good. When he started getting hurt, you can't get hurt and have the same antics. Now we got to get you up out of here because your talent no longer is coming to play because you're not on the field. So now you become dispensable and that's a lot of times what happens. If you're greatly talented, usually a lot of drama comes with that because it's hard to give a young guy that much talent and think it's not going to be. So you understand
and money and opportunities.
And it brings a lot of crap, but I'm willing to put up with it as long as it's not. As long as you give me that production, okay, we'll talk. And again, I'm saying this because this is what happens behind closed doors a lot of times, especially in sports.
So we look at people like Randy Moss, Odell Beckham, right? And then you look at people like LeBron James. Is it safe to say, you having actually been around these athletes and you being a high performer yourself, elite performer, that the ones who remain humble are really the ones who go to the highest levels?
Yeah. Either you're really good, you got a good PR team
that can keep everything quiet.
Keep everything quiet.
Yeah.
But in general, yes, I have, because and I say this about a lot of people, not even just athletes, like your guys like Drake or 50 Cent, or guys that create a lot of great content and stuff. 50 Cent straight up told you, he said, I don't drink. But he raps about that all the time.
He did say that.
Floyd Mayweather, look how I don't drink. What you're seeing is you're seeing a lifestyle promoted out there that's being lived, but not as often as you think. See, the difference is high profile players like that, they party hard when they party. That don't mean they party all the time. That makes sense.
Yep.
You can't make $100 million and party every night, because a lot of kids going, I want to make a lot of money, go party. If you're making $100 million, I mean, you got $100 million problems. You don't have time to do that and keep it. I guarantee you talk to Drake, he's probably somewhere doing something with music right now.
Yeah.
It's just when they party, they live it up. The one time a week, or the one, if that.
And they have the means to do it. It's something that draws a lot of attention.
You got to put the money in. So humble, I mean, is when you say humble, I think of somebody that is responsible. They understand what they have, they understand what to do with, and they put the time in. To me, that's humble. You want to celebrate on the field because you're accomplished. People like to say, "Oh, you're not humble," because I don't like that part of it. I think you can go overboard, but I don't like guys, "Oh, you're not humble if you celebrate in the field." Man, I just put in 20 hours of work in 2 days, right? If I want to celebrate, I'm celebrating because I'm happy because it came out, not because I'm trying to fit in your little bubble of, oh, I got to look a certain way, even though that's not me. I ain't doing that. So, but to get back to my point, I know I took that, but he said that, and as far as the running thing, I remember the funny thing about it, my mother was the reason why I sprinted on and off field, because I didn't want to hear her mouth. Because she said, she always had this phrase, Charlie hustle. You sprint on and off field no matter what. It wasn't because I was trying to be humble. I don't want to hear her mouth, because we're talking about the same mother that came to one of my games as a professional athlete and had a list written out about all the things I didn't do well, all the way from the warm-ups to the game. You were talking too much during warm-ups. You're doing this. I was like, oh my God.
I love your mother.
I'm a man now, Mom. And she like, you ain't doing none of this right. And I could hear her in the back of my mind just saying, boy, you think I put all that time in you to see you jack this up by this? No, I'm gonna watch your butt.
Did your mom play sports?
You know what's funny? I don't know. The one thing I know about my mom is she went to college, and she said she called her mom. She was afraid, she was lonely because she went to college. She was the firstborn, and she was afraid. She didn't like being away from home. And she called her mom, and she left. She went home.
And she came back home.
Came back home. And so I was like, so that's why I said earlier, like, she liked sports because of me. She liked sports. Her investment into me forced her to like sports. She began to love it.
It's interesting the things that you mentioned that she pointed out to you, because those are things that high level coaches look at.
Yep.
Is the player chatty Cathy?
Yep.
Is the player hustling? But your mom's just instinct of knowing right from wrong knew to talk to you.
Yeah, she did. And I remember that conversation to this day.
Yeah.
Because even though we put up a fight about it, I knew she was right. And I look back on it, I wish I had the mindset I have now, as far as this thing, a lot of things would have went different. Mm-hmm. I was so talented that when you're that talented, that young, you got to make sure you got the right people around you, because when you get to that level, everybody's already talented in their own way. Now I was still the best athlete on the field. I mean, Baseball America rated me fastest athlete, fastest base runner, and best athlete. So I was still that. But when my mindset did not match what my talent was, it was a different show. You can't just get by on talent. Your preparation matters, and that's what she was saying. You don't come out here and be showing out, trying to please and fit in. You out here because you got to do what got you out here.
You got a job to do.
You have a job to do, and it's a mental. You have to stay mentally focused, because that is something that is taxing on your mind. There's a lot of things that happen, frustration, especially with baseball. 70% failure just to be considered good, so you're pissed off most of the time.
Yes.
So I told you earlier, a lot of nights I didn't talk to my family because I was upset.
So to wrap up the question, that what do you look for as a coach in players? It sounds like hustle is one.
Anything that has to do with speed, I'm looking for. 'Cause I'm a fast guy. Yeah, I'm deaf. That's probably the first thing that I look for is speed.
What are some other things that get your attention?
Like you pointed out, the jacking around. It's the little things, because it's the little things doing the little things right that got me to becoming a pro. So that's why I'm going to pay attention to that.
So if you were to think back in your coaching career, and I feel like every coach has a favorite or a few favorites.
Oh, man.
What were some of the commonalities in those players that made them your favorite?
I thought you were going to ask me who's. I was like, don't ask me that. I don't.
No, we can't ask those questions.
Yeah, don't ask me that because I can't. But some of the commonalities: good attitude, upbeat attitude, stayed focused under pressure, the ability to lock it in when times get tough. Usually, those are the guys that they would keep the team locked in, either by what they said or how they performed. They just composed.
So natural leaders.
Asking questions. I'm not afraid to ask questions. When a kid comes up to me, he's constantly asking me questions. There are sometimes I get annoyed internally, but I won't show the kid that.
Now, when you say asking questions, there are some kids who ask kind of confrontational questions.
Yeah.
How do you feel about those types of questions?
So, interesting enough, I guess I have something in me that can kind of gauge that. I look at stuff like that, and I'm probably gonna say, okay, you're one of those. Like you're the guy that, you're like me, so you're not afraid to confront. So like initially, like your flesh is like, oh, you got to challenge me, but
sure.
But those are the type of guys you take behind closed doors. And you sit them down, you talk to them about, hey, I like this. Here's maybe a better way to dress in front of a team, but I like that.
Would you say it strengthens the relationship?
100%, because I'm not looking. Again, when I step back and look at it, like I may handle it different on the field if I react to it, but when I step back and look at it, I'll say, okay, I look that quality right there. Okay, I can use that if we harness it correctly.
So that's interesting, right? So sometimes people think that the players that are the favorite players are the kiss butts, right?
I hate kiss butts.
But actually, it's the one who question the system, but not in a way that's confrontational in front of the group. Maybe more one-on-one.
Right. And they're not there. So we have this thing, and people who take sides on it. When a child asks why, you tell them to do something. Why? That's an easy one, because party's like, because I said so. But there's also another part though, because we always talk about what's your why? What's your why? You can't tell somebody, we want to know why certain things do what they do, because I think, you know what I mean? Like that's a very,
I don't know if everyone just caught what he just said. How many books about what is your why? Yet we're always yelling at our kids for asking why.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so you have to look at it at some point. Why matters. Maybe try not to look at it as situation dictates now.
Sure.
That's the question. That's what you have to do. A friend told me years ago, anytime somebody asks me any question, I always say situation dictates. So you got to know the kid. You know whether what he's doing or she's doing. You know why if you just got into it with your kid, right? And you say do that, and they say why, they're probably not really wanting to know why.
Sure.
But typically, if the kid does that, you can gauge whether they're really genuinely asking why, even if it's a bad time or in front of a team. But I'm secure enough a little bit to know, hey, that's a fighter right there. That guy's a fighter. He don't just, or when I say something, I may say something to a kid, and they don't agree with it. Well, I look at that. Part of me's like, boy, you better sit. But the other part's like, oh, okay, we found one. Okay, it's almost like you're looking for a trooper, but in order to find a trooper, you got to collide heads.
And what's the opposite? There's the player, or like when we coach agents, who really feel a certain way, but aren't comfortable enough to share how they feel.
Right.
And that's not a healthy relationship.
No, because that ends up in an implosion and explosion.
Exactly. Right. So to have someone say, Coach, I don't like the way you're teaching me how to do this or that. Yeah. Can you explain to me why you want me to do it this way?
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Right.
But it would be like if they said, I don't like the way you're teaching, I'll be, God damn.
It's the hardest thing to hear as a coach, but sometimes we do have to hear it.
Can you imagine your kid coming, I don't like how you're parenting me right now.
Kenzie does that all the time.
I don't like how you do that. I don't like how you just talk to me. That's different. But I don't like the way you coach that right now. Teach it different. No, but
kids do learn differently.
They do.
And adults do too.
They do. They do learn differently, so we have to lead differently. We have to learn to lead differently. And that is, unfortunately, you learn that in the trenches. You don't learn that just read a book. You got to get in there and get your hands dirty and see how you react to certain things, because that's going to show you a lot about you as well.
Absolutely. There are certain agents, real estate agents, that I can give them a little piece of something and they'll take it and run with it, right? I'll give them one script and they're just going to master it. And then there's others who, they need a lot of reinforcement. So everyone does learn differently, and people like to be coached and led differently.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's responsibility that comes with it. I like how you said that. People like to be led differently. Some guys, I remember my boy Luke Hudson, when I was coaching him when I first stopped playing ball, and I mean, he was my running back. I was his coach. I was running backs coach. And boy, we got into it one day at practice. Imagine I'm 25 years old, so I'm still fiery, and I would get out there and run a scout team, offense and defense. I told him one thing. I said, you can hit me anywhere you want to, just don't hit me in my head. I'll give him real looks, like talking trash to him, like, you suck. Like, I'm giving it to him. Well, this one time, Luke, he had enough. So I was playing receiver. I went up for the ball. The ball was a little high. Boom! He pushed me hard, like, to make a point. This kid's 16, 17 years old.
Yeah.
I'm 25 years old. I got up, I had some choice words for him. I grabbed him by his face, man. Well, you wrote me up. And the coach had to separate us. This is me coaching him as a kid. He was one of those kids I knew I could do that with.
Right.
He was my running back. That was my guy. I was friends with his dad too.
Yeah.
Great guy. And right after that, love you, coach. Love you. All right, boy. What's up?
Hey.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's the way I could do that with him. But he knew he could do that with me. You might say that's not respect, but I had that I wanted that type of relationship.
Yeah, you created that space for him.
did. I pulled that out of him.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So the best moment was to be able to go back up to him. You good, baby? You good? All right, cool. All right. Because it's football. It's game. But I wanted that dog I wanted him to see, we good.
Yeah.
We good.
That's the beauty of sports, that camaraderie and the teammates.
Yep.
So we know you're highly accomplished as an athlete. You're running a business now, correct?
Yeah.
What is the name of your business?
So DJ2 Enterprises. And then so I run under that is Power Players.
Okay, Power Players. So let's talk about how all the skills you've learned as a highly accomplished athlete are now translating into your business endeavors.
Yeah. So, right now. So I started with God Cares About Sports. And that was the book I wrote during my transition from baseball into coaching. And
how old were you when you wrote that?
I was 25.
25. So you became a best-selling author before you were even 30.
25.
Wow.
And again, our motivations, just like you said, everyone has different ways to be led.
Yeah.
Some of our motivation, things that get us going, are different too. I'm typically one of those guys where I can be very stern and dug in when it's something that sometimes all hell's got to break loose for me to say, okay, all right, let's go.
So when you say that, what you mean is you're going to keep trying, even
I'm gonna
if
keep trying it my way,
right,
until you tell me, until you force me to change,
to pivot.
Yeah, to pivot. And
Gotcha.
that's what God knows about. He knows, and so He will. Like, I'm one of those guys. I'll fight with him. Like, bruh.
How do you feel that has served you in business?
Man, it serves you because I'm a fighter. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna keep going, keep going. When things happen, I'm not gonna give up. Just no. Again, and I was listening to a podcast on the way over here. Nightcap. Shout out to Shannon Ocho Cinco. But today they had Gilbert Arenas on, and one thing he talked about is when you take. They were talking about Draymond Green, because he just got ejected again. He just came back from
I saw that.
He just came back from a 5-game suspension, and then he turned around and hit a dude. Yeah. So they suspended him indefinitely, and they were talking about it. They were like, "Hey, how do you, what would you deal with it? How do you change him? What do you do?" He said, "The problem with that is if you tell him to turn that off, you might be turning off the thing that makes him
a great
too.
Player."
So it reminds me of that scripture where in the Bible there's a guy that's managing a field, and they noticed that the enemy put in weeds while the seeds were growing, or with the wheat. And so they noticed that the weeds were growing with the wheat. And he said, "Hey, do you want us to go get rid of the weeds?" And the owner said, "No, don't pluck up the weeds, because if you pluck up the weeds, you're going to pluck up the wheat."
The wheat, yeah.
He said, "I want them to grow together." And so I believe that the same thing that makes you great, if you take that away, or the same thing that gets you in trouble, is also the same thing that makes you great. So if you try to change it up, you're literally changing up your personality. I believe that the key is to discipline, to learn to discipline the hardest, or understand when you're in that mode, and learn to work with it. Mm-hmm. Use it. You can't just get away. You're giving away part of you when you try to, I got to change this part about me.
Didn't Phil Jackson used to do that with Dennis Rodman?
That's exactly what he did. He understood, and that's real leadership. He understood that Dennis was one of those guys. Hey, I don't do this, but he's one of those guys. You got to let him. He's giving me this on the court, though. You see, okay, that proves my point right there. His output on the court did not change. You see his output on the court? So they let him keep doing what he did.
But to your point, didn't Phil Jackson say, well, if I tell him he can't go to Vegas or all of these things, then he's not going to be Dennis. We need him to be Dennis.
We need him to be Dennis. So, do your thing. Just make sure you come up here and do your thing, on the court. And that's what he did. He was Dennis on and off the court. And so I think leadership understands that, and you build around that. You understand the personality of your people. You have to be willing to be flexible. You can't just sit there and my way or the highway. No, not in today's world. You ain't doing that. People are too sensitive, and people,
This is such great advice for all business leaders right now.
Yeah.
You cannot coach every player the same.
Even though, look, let me give you a prime example of what coaching every player looks the same. It gets Tom Brady an extra ring and putting a ring in your face, Bill Belichick, and say, "Hey, I got one without you." Bill Belichick tried to coach Tom Brady like he did everybody. You can't coach Tom Brady told you that's why he left.
Yeah, he did.
They were feuding, and he would tell the public, "They don't treat me the same way." He felt that he could be treated a little bit different. This is what I done. So what does he do? He goes and wins a ring somewhere else. You don't think Bill Belichick was sitting there slapping stuff around? Because the narrative is going to be Brady's the one.
Yes.
Brady's the reason why they're winning. He did it and look what. So
there was a lot of memes about that for real estate agents leaving brokerages.
Yeah. That was a prime example. You can't do that. And even if you are doing that, you got to recognize, okay, this is my top guy. I got to keep him around, unless I'm prideful and say I can win without you. So if you're ready to lose him, then fine. Yeah. You won one without him. So
I think what I'm hearing from you is true leadership is knowing how to coach, and knowing what works for the team.
Yep. Works for the team, and your team is made of individuals. So that means you may have to do the dirty work and seek out individuals that you may have to do one by one and see.
What about the stuff nobody wants to talk about? when you have to let the best player on the team go for the benefit of the team?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody has a different gauge. I don't think there's a one answer to that, because, like we said, if you got to expand your coaching. I think it's the same thing. You know, if it's your best player, you're typically going to give him more leeway because you actually don't want him to leave. But at any relationship, there has to have boundaries. There has to be expectations, and when you give expectations and standards ahead of time, it gives people the opportunity to make a choice. And so what happens is, if somebody's willingly going to choose to go outside those boundaries after you've given them, it doesn't matter if you're a top player and I got to let you go, because you're going to cause more chaos. You're the type of guy that'll bring my tire. You're going to go talk back to these people because you're talented enough. You already got, so people are going to listen to you. They know you're top, so they're going to listen to you. So I got to get you out of here. I got to get you out because your talent don't matter. You cross the boundaries.
Who are some players that come to mind immediately when you talk about that? I think Manny Machado's like that. Shots fired.
Manny Machado.
He was such a great player, but when did he show up for the Dodgers? He was terrible in the World Series. And his ego always kept him from really helping the team.
Chemistry matters. And in baseball in particular is a very egotistical game. We call it obviously a individual team sport.
Sure.
So you're all part of a team, but you all have different responsibilities. You're doing your own thing. When you're up at the plate, you're not depending on anybody else but yourself. So when I get my numbers, if I go 3 for 3, it doesn't matter if the team lost sometimes, because I'm feeling good. You know,
those are the worst players.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mindset. So I'll put it to like this: just total honesty. You could still be a very selfish player and hide it as a baseball player, because we're taught to say what's correct and not really how we feel about the situation. So every player, there's not one player that's going to come up and say, what were you thinking about before that? I was thinking about my team, and I wanted to come through for my team. But you just want to do well. You just want to get your numbers. You don't have time to dissect all that. Dude's throwing 100 miles an hour. You think about that fastball. But that's what I mean. You're saying what's correct.
Sure.
If I were to really tell you how I was feeling, I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to make sure I get this hit because I'm 0 for 4. You know what I'm saying? This would be the perfect moment so I can do, you know what I mean? I think that one of my favorite quotes, Tommy Pham, he said it, and I'm not surprised coming from him, man, because that's just how he is. That's literally that's it. They asked him, they asked him how do you feel about, he got a game-winning hit or whatever, and he said, I feel good. He said, I believe in me. He said, the reason why I believe in me. It was something along the lines of him saying that, and then Snoop Dogg said, I want to thank myself.
I want to thank me.
See, stuff like that, I like it because it's different.
It's a fair point. We have become a society of always be humble, always say the right thing. We're coached to say the right thing. So every once in a while, seeing that real side of people and how they really feel, it's refreshing.
I mean, who do we follow? You don't follow. It's hard to be a leader without doing something that gets you
do something different
away from everybody. Like,
yeah.
You're doing the same thing, even if it's the wrong thing. It gets you noticed, and that's why the media says all news is good news. Any type of coverage you get is good coverage. That's why trolls. You can be a great troll. You can be someone. They're good. They stand out. So I don't want to. And I think if people are honest, it's refreshing. Even if you don't agree, you like the fact that he does that. Floyd Mayweather. A lot of people don't like him.
TMT, right? That's him.
Yeah. They don't like them, but they do like him. They don't like him, but they do like him, because the reality is, you come watch him. You come to watch him. Just you coming to watch him lose is your sign of respect.
True.
You wouldn't spend your money just, I'm spending my money to see him lose. No, you're still acknowledging that he's that good. That's why you want him to lose. You're tired of seeing him.
You're still there to see him.
You're still there to see him. And the athletes and the people that understand that that's just how the way the world works, we won't get so butthurt when people don't support or say what they want to do. Because me stepping out and doing something different or putting myself out there, that takes courage. And if you just believe in yourself enough and understand that people are going to say, they're going to say stuff, they're not always going to say yes. You're not supposed to. That's why we call it overcoming.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit. One of your businesses now is coaching and training. What age group?
So I started as young as 5.
5, okay. And you're developing athletes, not just their playing skills, but also their mindset. Is that correct?
Yeah, the champion mindset.
Can we talk about the champion's mindset?
Yeah. So one of the things that I equate to, and what my, as we call, signature talk or speech or my lifestyle.
For those who don't know, a signature talk is when you're a public speaker, what people typically are going to book you for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what I learned that my heart lies in how I grew up, how I was trained as a kid, and from the moment that I woke up from the bed, my mother strategically created an atmosphere that transformed my mindset. Just from waking up, she would tickle our feet and always have us laughing. She would never wake me up early. I mean, regular. Like, hey, Daryl, get up. It was always something tickling, something we start laughing. You know, when I was older, it was take off.
So make it fun.
Yeah, until I started falling asleep with headphones on. Quit sleeping with the headphones on. You know, fall asleep to Usher. You know, but she would tickle our feet.
At least it wasn't too short.
Yeah, no. Already. We can get, if she asks me that later, we can get into that part.
His mom is not a fan of too short. She's not a fan of too short.
She's not a fan of too short. She walked into my car. I was 21. And probably the worst song ever that a mother could walk in on. I was like, out of all songs, you walked in on like the worst of the worst song. And yeah.
She was like, what are you listening to?
No, it was no, I felt about 10 years old again, but she went off. She was, what is this garbage? She called me on the phone, but what are you listening to? You know, and
okay, so no too short after that.
No too short. But no, she would always have this music playing on the stereo. Still remember Babyface being played on that song on the stereo. But she always had some peaceful music, good music while we're walking to the bed, the living room, and then she'd feed us, obviously, and then she'd have all these papers on the wall, quotes and motivational stuff, almost like a locker room. You know, when you have like inspirational stuff on a locker, she created a atmosphere of inspiration. Let's say it like that.
Do you think, because I know you're raised by a one-parent household, correct? Mm-hmm. And a lot of my audience is as well. Do you believe that your mother put you in sports to keep you out of trouble?
That's a good question. I don't know if she put me in sports to keep me out of trouble, but I tell you that sports did keep me out of trouble.
Yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, so sports offers, number one, and this is actually, I'm giving you a little gold. This is actually one of the habits that I talk about in my new book that I'm coming out with.
What's the name of your new book?
5 habits of highly effective kids.
Nice.
Yeah, 5 habits of highly effective kids. And so the whole point is taking the things that my mother did for us and the skills that I learned at a young age, and you implementing them in your child's life. And you're training your high performance habits as a kid. There's no age that you can do these right now. There was no reason why I should have been gone. Let me start out. There's no reason why I should even thought to go pro at 17 years old. Black male, mother, 2 kids. I was supposed to be a statistic.
Right.
Father this home, you know, all that. This statistic. At a time where I should be a statistic, you know, we had to move and live with people struggling and stuff like that. I'm thinking about going pro. My mind's not on, oh man, it's hard. I'm thinking about going pro. That's the thing. So our outward situation is.
Who put it on your heart or on your mind to go pro? Who was the first person to speak this over you?
Myself, really, honestly, because my mother implanted that. I remember to the day where she sat down and said, "You want to play baseball?" She was reading the newspaper, and she said, "Hey, you want to play baseball?" I was 6 years old, 5 years old. So you want to play baseball? Sure.
I wonder why she picked baseball.
I don't know, man. You have to ask her, because she said that when I was 2 years old, I had big red bats.
Yes.
She said I had one of those in the parking lot in front of the house, and I would make her throw the ball to me. You know, she said, throw it, and I was teaching her how to throw it. You don't throw it like this. So let me run that back.
5 years old.
No, when I was 3.
3 years old.
Yeah, when I was 3. So let me run it back. When you asked me who taught me, I believe it was me being exposed to it. It was my exposure, like television or something. You know, you see it and then you see something you like. Oh man, I want to do that. But with baseball, I just happened to be playing baseball and I drew a love for that. But the affirmations and the things she made us say in the morning, those weren't limited to baseball. She made us say that anyways.
Gotcha.
So I didn't. Again, this is why I had 31 football scholarships. I was National Honor Society. I ran Junior Olympics track, number 3 in the country. I mean, I was good at everything I did. So because of the way I saw myself, everything I touched prospered and succeeded.
At what point in time did you realize, hey, I could really go pro? I can really do this.
Man, I don't think there was ever a time that I didn't think I could, bro. That's the type of thinking I was on.
Really?
Yeah, that's the type of thinking I was on. I didn't want to play baseball. I remember sitting in the hospital. I was sick or something, and my coach, this was back when select ball had just started coming out, and it was for the elite. Like, league ball was where everybody was at.
Sure.
And it was good competition. This is back, Northwest 45 went to the World Series, and this is when the league ball was elite. If you played select ball, you had to get selected to play that. It wasn't you sign up your kid. No, we got to choose you. Okay.
Parents weren't just starting teams so their kids had a place to play.
No. This was, I struck out 3 times on this because I was scared. Like, you had to get selected.
Sure.
And we were top guns. So what we did, we took our all-star team and turned it into a select team. So we called the Top Guns. I remember my coach, Coach Romar, he walked into the hospital. He asked me if I wanted to play again this summer. And I was so afraid to say no because previously my mom and I had a conversation. I was going to play football. I was going to take some time off, play football. And I didn't want to because I didn't want to let down them. So I agreed to play football. And then when he came in there, he started walking. I said, Coach, I'm going to play baseball. He said, okay, good. And we left. No, you ain't. You ain't playing baseball. We're going to take some time, get into another sport, learn something different. You're still young. So picked up football. Next thing you know, at some age, you understand you're a good athlete. You know what I'm saying? You start understanding, I'm the fastest one here. Nobody's beating me. You get it. You understand. So that's really what, it wasn't a matter of, I know. It was a matter of pick one.
Sure.
Literally, it's pick one. I could have ran track easily. So that's really what type of stuff I wanted. It was a take your pick. I chose not to play football because I didn't want to.
Okay.
So many kids screaming for a scholarship. I had them eating at the palm of my hand.
So for you, there wasn't like an aha moment. It was, I know I could do any one of these things. Yep. I need to pick one.
Yeah, I need to pick one. They didn't give me, I still remember at when I went to Northland in 9th grade, they didn't give me the MVP award, the overall athletic MVP award, because they had already given me the baseball, or they had already given me the football award and the basketball award. There was only one more sport. My sport, baseball. They didn't give me, and so they gave it to another Chris, for his last name, but they gave it to Chris. He was a senior. But the point is that baseball is my best sport. That's what I did best at. But you gave me the other awards for these two.
Sure.
So they were trying to split it, and I understand that. But that's my point. It was just pick one.
Gotcha.
But my mindset was pretty good.
Can I put you on the hot seat?
Put me on the hot seat.
So a lot of families now, when your child is not the best kid on the team, you sometimes have trouble recognizing that. And rather than accepting that your kid has not made 4 out of the 5 teams that they've tried out for, a lot of parents are going to go and start their own team. They're going to go fund their own team just so their kid has a place to play. At what point in time, or how does a parent recognize maybe it's just not for their kid?
Well, I think that starts internally first, understanding that, okay, let me see what my kid is doing well at home, or what is he gravitating to at home, and things like that. Because again, I played the saxophone, I did other things. My sister was a writer. She didn't play, I mean, not a writer, but she did art. I think paying attention to little things, because we all have other things that we do. Everybody's not an athlete,
Sure.
or as best a great athlete. Everybody on a good football team is not the best athlete. Only one can be the best athlete. So that means there's other things that we're great at. It's common sense. So we should be seeking to develop kids' skills in other areas in general. I think right now we live in a very entertainment-based society. So sports and entertainment gets a lot of the coverage.
Sure.
And when you're seeing that all the time, when a kid is seeing that all the time, he notices the attention that they get. He understands, okay, as a male, you see where all the women are gravitating to. Okay, so let's keep it real. That's a real thing for a young man, is a woman. And so when you see that, you're thinking, I got to be that to be significant. I need that.
So you're saying that maybe some young athletes are like, if I want to get a quote unquote, unattainable wife, I should become a great athlete.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Wow.
What I'm saying is that if you take away the car, if you take away all the attention from that, and especially the attention from a woman, and then ask a man what he really wants to do, you would be very surprised that sports is not the first one.
Wow.
Because sports gets you the most attention.
What do you think would be the first thing they say if it's not sports?
Well, you would be forced to do something like writing. At least me, like I love to write. I love poetry. I love to do, I like to create certain things. But, like I said, when I started, doing other things, I noticed my desire. When I stopped going to clubs and stuff as a ball player, I realized my desire for baseball wasn't as great as. So put it like this: when I got married, my desire for a lot of things baseball started kind of going down, because it's like, well, the reward of being an athlete, I'm not doing anymore.
It just became another job.
It became another job. It became another job. I don't tell a lot of people this. I'm going to say it first time publicly, because a lot of people wouldn't even believe it. Only a few people know the story, and they probably don't even believe me. But so the day that I said, okay, you made the roster, when I was with the Reds. Willie Harris was his name. That's the guy. So he was the guy that I was telling you had 10 years in the big league.
Sure.
I don't know I sat down in front of my locker, and remember I said I was spending a lot of time with God, all this stuff. It's just certain things, I was getting invited to certain places I didn't want to go to, and I looked down, I looked at everything. I said, God, get me out of here. I said those words. I said, get me out of here. I don't want to be here.
Interesting.
And wasn't too long later, coach comes in. Hey, Jones, coach wants to see you. And then this is after my ticket's already booked to go. And they sat me down, sent me down to AAA, and ended up having eye surgery. And then next thing I'm getting released. Remember, this is after I'm handing out papers and encouragement, and I'm evangelizing my locker room.
So I want to make sure everyone understands this. You had a nickname, Preacher Jones, when you were playing. Yeah,
with the Reds. That's when.
How did you get that nickname?
I got that nickname because I was spending too much time with God. And
there's no such thing as too much time.
I was spending a lot of time with God, and He was changing my heart. He was changing when He says, "I'll give you the desires of your heart." He doesn't tell you that He's going to change your desires first to line up with His. That's why our parents say, "Watch who you hang around with, because you're going to start being like them."
Sure. Well, so you would write letters to your teammates and leave it in their locker?
I had them all printed out. Yeah, I had them all printed out. Basically handing out little devotion things to my teammates. Yeah.
Like scripture and encouragement?
Yeah, I remember going to the locker room one day, and my mom will tell you, my mom, she was pissed off. She said, "You need to stop doing that. That's what got you really." They probably really.
That's something bigger than sports, though, for you.
She was because she was already frustrated with some other things, but
sure.
But I mean, to this day, she thinks that's why She was like, which it very well may be, you know, who knows? I don't know. But
if that's the reason why you got released, then maybe you shouldn't have, you know, maybe that was for the better.
But that's what I'm saying, because after that, I came on, and I remember watching this preacher in a sermon says sometimes bad things happen not because you did something wrong, but because you finally did something right. And when you start like
bad things happen not because you did something wrong, but because you finally did something right. Talk about that.
Well, I mean, think about it. You have this guy who has these gifts. God gives you gifts. Okay? But the world, you also have the world in front of you saying this is the way we do it. So think about a person who God has called or your mind, they just don't know it yet. So you're in an inward struggle your entire life between what's in you versus what you see, what you want. So I'm seeing
the world expects of you.
What the world expects. So, and then they trash you if you don't, you know, if you're different. So you got this ball player. I've been a ball player my whole life. I've been doing all this other stuff. But every time I open my mouth, every time I do an interview, even the interview people are saying, man, if this career doesn't work out, you'd be good in broadcast. You'd be good. You speak very well. You do this. Hey, you got pretty teeth. Hey, you got doing this. How? When I was with the Reds, I stayed with it was a woman. So it was a spring training. She was renting out a room in her house. So I stayed right across the street from her in spring training. I'd ride my bike up to the field. So imagine you in big league can't ride your bike up to the
You're
field.
probably too damn big for the bike.
I'm parking in the locker room there laughing. Yeah, he got Brandon Fields, all these dudes, Ferraris and stuff. I'm riding my bike up in there. So
it's great extra. Is that why you love cycling?
No, that's not why.
He's a big spinner, by the way, ladies. Yeah. If you see him at Soul Cycle, don't be surprised.
Yeah, no, I do that. I do that for the challenge and the cardio. But yeah, so we're there, and the whole time we were there, I would be in my room just studying, reading words, studying this, and then go and play baseball, reading words, studying, just full of. And you know, when we went there, I forgot what I was about to say when I said that, where I was going with it. I'll come back to it.
It's okay.
But it was a good story.
Well, I see our time here, so we can start wrapping it up. I know you're very busy. Just a few rapid fire questions. So what do you have next?
What I have next? So I'm launching a program. Well, obviously the book, publishing the book.
And tell everyone the name of the book again.
The book is called 5 Habits of Highly Effective Kids.
Okay.
And I didn't tell you about the children's book I also have organized. It's called My Number One Fan. So that's actually for the children and the family, especially because it's a picture book, but it's a little poetic, but it has a study guide that's going to come with it with the 7 themes that are the leadership things that helped me, that my mom did in the morning before I went to school, that helped me.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. So
your mom is very proud of you, isn't she?
I hope so. No, she is.
Strong single mother.
Yeah, no, she's done well for herself, and my sister, like I said, a fashion designer.
So the books, you're a speaker with Inspired Leaders.
So Inspired Leaders, a group of leaders, is a leadership community, and they'll come and ask me to speak. Great person, Elizabeth Griever and her husband do a lot of great things, and real estate too. So we actually Airbnb for them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. It's pretty cool. Great place. But yeah, so we got that, and then a program for men.
Okay.
Hadn't talked about this much, and this was really inspired by my visit to my buddy last week. For men, again, he battles a little of the same thing as far as transitioning. You know, it's a real thing where you can hold on to something for so long and not even know it until you're actually forced with seeing, you know, when you're seeing guys that you played with, and you're seeing, oh man, he's got this, he's got that. You know, and I was a player of the year, so it's like you don't keep getting these reports.
Thank you for coming to the bullpen today. All right, y'all. Thank you.